a teenager, they're just learning how to drive and you just chucked them in a Formula One race car. That's the type of golfer we're talking about here.
Welcome to the Golf Fitness Bomb Squad podcast with Chris Finn, a production of P4S Golf. Welcome to the Golf Fitness Bomb Squad. My name is Chris Finn. I'm your host, and I'm here with the Director of Research here at P4S Golf, Bobby Prengle. Bobby, how are you today?
We're doing great. It's looking like fall, getting a little crisp, a little cool, perfect golf weather.
It is good golf weather. And I think, obviously the big reason we're here today is to talk about the three different profiles of golfers. Each golfer has their own struggle in different weather, particularly the cold.
Sure.
But, obviously the name of our podcast here is the Bomb Squad, right? Uh-huh. And so I think a lot of that honestly comes from the three profiles of golfers, and in particular the most popular one. But let's start with the least popular.
All right.
We know that 9.5 out of 10 of the people listening right now. So for every 10 people listening, 9.5 of you are in the last, category of golfer. So stay tuned for that. But let's start with the unicorns. Basically, what are the profiles? Like for everybody listening, let's go. What are the three profiles? Mm-hmm. Who tends to fall in them? Why do we even care?
Yep. So let's start with what are the three profiles, right? So the first profile, this is going to be the least common. All right. If you're listening to this, getting some information on this for the first time, this is most likely not you. Okay. So this would be,
but aspirationally it could be.
It could be, but it's not you right now. So this is the golfer that has more speed available to them because they're so physically dominant that they're not maxing out their body's speed potential. Okay. So we kind of jokingly call this like a more RPMs under the hood golfer. I like to make car analogies. So imagine it's, a teenager, they're just learning how to drive and you just chucked them in a Formula One race car. That's the type of golfer we're talking about here.
Only good things could happen.
Only good things. You're not going to crash and burn into the wall.
No. But thinking back to me as a 16-year-old driving, I would definitely not have done anything stupid in that car.
Yep. Yeah. So that's going to be the least common prototype that we see. All right. The next least common, if you will, is going to be our balanced golfer. So that's someone that when we take them through our assessment, their physical characteristics are going to match their golf swing speed outputs. All right. So that's going to be a decent number of people. Mm-hmm. That's probably going to be the second least common though. All right. Now, the most common type, and this is the one that we see all the time. We get phone calls, we get emails, we get people knocking down our door because they're in this category, is the ticking time bomb, or worse yet, the exploded time bomb.
We weren't able to defuse you quick enough. The bomb squad failed.
Right.
So now we become the duct tape, put you back together crew.
We are trying to bring up the pieces and put it back together. Mm-hmm. Right. So the ticking time bomb is someone who is putting more out on the golf course than really what their body is able to handle.
Right. So this is anybody who's listening right now. Your back hurts, your elbow hurts, your knee hurts, your shoulder hurts. Anything on your body hurts.
Well, and I would add,
how would you categorize it?
It doesn't have to hurt. It can be sore. It can be stiff. It can be achy. That's the whole point of the ticking time bomb, right? It's you've got this problem that you're probably ignoring. Mm-hmm. You're probably saying, "Oh, this isn't really an issue," but we don't want you to become that ticked, exploded time bomb where, okay, yeah, you're literally in so much back pain you can't play anymore.
Right. So if you're popping Advil.
Icy hot.
Icy hot. What are the other patches and
just wearing compression sleeves,
the
knee
tape.
braces.
You're taping up your shoulders, or
if you look like a rainbow with the kinesio tape all over your body, right? Yeah.
So if that sounds like anyone of listening right now, you are probably a ticking time bomb. If you're already in pain, or I always hear particularly getting in the fall, you have member guests, or in the spring there's a lot of member guests, member events, club championships. Multiple day events, right?
Yep.
Summertime, we hear about golf trips, right? And you're playing multiple days. So if somebody is concerned about their ability to play multiple days in a row, mm-hmm. They're in this category as well.
Oh,
correct?
Absolutely. Yep. So again, if you're kind of going, man, I just played yesterday. I'm waking up. I'm kind of sore. I'm kind of achy. You're a ticking time bomb, right? Let's not wait until you explode to get things fixed.
Okay. So I think at this point, so we have 3 categories. We have more RPMs under the hood.
Yep.
We have a balanced golfer. Both of those are less than 10% of people listening right now.
Yep.
And then we have the ticking time bomb or the exploded time bomb, which are going to make up the majority of people. Now, how do we take me through and everybody listening? How do we figure out, like somebody listening right now, how do they figure out which one they are? If they're not necessarily hurting, right? Because if you're hurting, you're exploded. So we already know which category you're in.
Yep.
But if that's not the case, how does somebody, and this is, I find the case a lot of times, the 30 to 45, 50-year-old.
Yep.
I fall in that category.
We both do. And it's,
right. You can kind of get through it, or you may feel okay. Like how does somebody go ahead and or even junior golfers, how do they understand and figure out which category they fit in?
Right. So these categories are based off of, again, go back to some of our previous episodes. We talk about the history of our assessment, right? So in the beginning, we took a whole bunch of data from every single person we worked with, and we tried to whittle it down to what actually matters. That's where the home assessment comes in, right? And if you're listening and you're like, I don't really know, I think I might be balanced, or I might be this ticking time bomb that they're talking about, that's where we're going to start, is the home assessment.
We can put that home assessment link in the show notes too here,
yep,
everybody. But okay, so home assessment. And what is in the home assessment?
So it's all of our important rotational center flexibility tests. All right. So we talked about the 4 rotary centers in the golf swing. That's going to be your neck, your trunk, your shoulders, and your hips. Right. We want to assess those and make sure that you can move enough to do a good, fast, efficient golf swing.
Okay. And explain how do we use our hips in the swing? At what point would we notice a limitation in our hips, our shoulder, trunk?
There's going to be a bunch of different variations on that. I would say the most common ones that we see, obviously, if your back is a little bit sore, right, then that's immediately telling us there's a restriction somewhere.
Okay.
In the golf swing, your low back is not really supposed to move a whole bunch, right, especially rotationally. So if it's doing too much,
is it less than 10 degrees of total rotation in your entire lumbar?
Pretty much. Yeah. Yep. So if you're waking up the next day after a round of golf.
So for everyone listening, when you see the guys on TV and particularly LPGA girls, and they have over, the announcers will say, hey, look at that. He's got 100+ degrees of total shoulder rotation, right, at the top of their backswing.
Mm-hmm.
Less than 10 of that should come from your low back, your lumbar.
Right.
Everything else should come from those 4 rotary centers.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, the low back attempts to help when it's not designed to, and that's where we run into issues. Right?
Absolutely.
So hips is basically when you rotate into your trail swing and rotate through your follow through. That's internal rotation.
And the key is rotate there, right?
Yes.
Watching people on the range the other day, there was a lot of side to side motion, not a whole lot of rotation.
So we introduce side. So if you can't rotate, if you guys have ever videoed yourselves, if there's a lot of sliding and swaying, forward and backwards, what are other signs that people will see that they're not rotating?
The most common one that people talk about is just, generic term, coming over the top, right? So if you take the club back and you're trying to stay on plane, or whatever term you want to use for it, right? And you're flinging the club like you're going fly fishing rather than playing golf, that's the most common one. And that's just a huge compensation that we see when people can't use those 4 rotary centers.
Gotcha. And then is there just for everyone listening, a particular hip or shoulder that's more important than the other, one that may cause more challenge for somebody if it's not working? Yeah.
So think of it like a crisscross pattern. So if you're a right-handed golfer, it's going to be your right shoulder and your left hip. That's the most important.
And so that's left hip being able to clear through the golf ball, right, through impact. And then if you're lefty, obviously be flipped. So be your right hip clearing through your right. Now, why the right shoulder? What does that allow a golfer to do, or what they should be doing?
Yep. So going back to that over the top concept, right? If your shoulder is really limited, then it's going to be very, very difficult, almost impossible, to keep the club on plane.
Yep.
Arm speed, very, very important for the golf swing. All right. And if you can't get your arm in the right position and kind of fling that club through, you're going to be slow and it's not going to look pretty.
Got it. And so an external rotation in the shoulder that we're looking for, I think visually, it always helps me think of a quarterback at the right at the back of his, kind of cocking his arm backwards. A pitcher, kind of same thing, where you see that forearm kind of rotated back. So obviously you can't do that in the golf swing.
Yeah.
Tough to shallow it out, as they say.
I'm surprised as a Giants fan that you used the quarterback analogy.
Oh boy, here we go. For everyone listening, Bobby's a Cowboys fan. I am not. I am a New York Giants fan, and let's just say it's been a rough decade for me, and I have to listen to him every time we play. And
it was a bold strategy going with quarterback there. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay, all right. Moving on now. For those listening, let's get to something that's actually helpful for them, Bobby. So if you can't rotate in any of those four, you fail the home assessment, which we'll have the link for in the show notes here, so you guys can actually go and take it. It's free. It takes less than 5 minutes. You can do it online.
Yep.
So they go take the assessment. Let's say they pass all of those rotary centers.
Yeah.
Can they still be a ticking time bomb?
Oh, absolutely. Right. And that's where we don't want. So kind of think of it like a little stepwise tree, if you will. Okay. If you fail the rotary centers,
go no further.
You're
Nothing
done.
else matters.
Right. You're done. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Go straight to getting some help fixing those rotary centers. Okay. Now, even if you do pass, and this is what happens with a lot of our junior players, right? Our middle schoolers, our high schoolers, and even some of our collegiate players.
We see it with women too, even adult women.
Especially the ladies who are a bit more flexible than us guys, right? If you pass all four rotational centers, the next thing you need to check is that your strength and power matches your speed.
Okay.
So what the heck does that mean?
That was going to be my question.
Perfect.
And I'm pretty sure everyone else listening was like, wow, that's great, Bobby. Well, what the heck does that mean?
What does that mean?
Yeah.
So there's a couple of tests that we use that our data shows not only really relates to speed and your ability to increase your speed, but if you're under certain thresholds, then you're a lot more likely to get injured. Okay. What's interesting with this is different moves are important for different people.
Okay.
Right. So talk about that, middle school, high school, college female, right? She is going to need a different level of strength in key areas than, let's say, our 50-year-old country club guy.
Okay.
All right. So there's a little bit of nuance there, but it's important to assess how strong your upper body is and how strong your lower body is.
And I think and then obviously we're comparing that to club head speeds. And that's like one of the cool things that, hopefully we'll be presenting at the World Scientific Golf Conference of, what are the normative values? And that's one of the things we've been able to establish is what are the normative values for that 50-year-old golfer versus the, 16-year-old junior girl golfer, right? I think in the past, what frustrated me when I started was everybody was comparing everyone and their mother to Tiger Woods and like
PGA Tour players.
Like, PGA Tour average is like, I remember doing an evaluation with like a 65-year-old guy. And he's like, well, is that good? I'm like, well, PGA Tour average is like 20 miles an hour faster. So I don't know. I guess that's not terrible. Like there was no data. There was no information of like, what's good for me, right at my stage. And I think that's the cool thing with the database of, 10,000 people that we have at this point, that we're able actually to give everybody listening here, you can actually figure out like what is good for you at your age, based on age, sex, and all that sort of kind of demographic information.
Right.
And that's what then matters that you can compare to percentile wise relative to your strength and even mobility changes, right?
Right.
Obviously I expect a 13-year-old girl to move a little bit more than my 85-year-old guy, right?
Right.
I don't expect them to have the same normative values. I expect them both to have mobility,
right,
but to varying degrees. And then I think also the interesting thing that you found in a lot of the research has been the difference in mobility requirements and strength requirements based on how fast people want to go.
Exactly.
I think that's always been one of the interesting things to me. Maybe you can expand on it. Is like people are like, oh yeah, I want to swing 100 miles an hour or 120 miles an hour. Or Kyle wants, I want to swing 170, right?
Right.
Like there's like there's
levels to this.
There's different levels. Like what are how important is more mobility as you try to go faster, and why is that so?
Well, so kind of going back to the three profiles, right? Mobility is that first key step, right? If you don't have that, then really nothing else matters, right? It does not matter how strong you are. It does not matter how powerful you are. Something is going to go wrong, right? And this is what's really interesting, just going to the driving range of a world long drive contest, right? All of these guys and gals are really fast. They're all strong, right? They're all powerful. The ones who consistently do the best are the ones that have the best mobility, right? What's really interesting, and not to get too data and nerdy for everybody, and again, put people to sleep, which is, my specialty. But basically, that mobility is going to set you up to be more consistent with your golf swing. It's going to help you get the club back further, which is going to help create more speed. But it's going to help you get the club back further with better form. Right.
So more efficiency.
Exactly.
AKA,
right. And more club face control. Right.
I hear that's important.
It is. Right. You just play around a golf with me and you'll see. All right. So that flexibility, getting more is going to help you with that aspect. It might not necessarily help you get directly more speed, but it's going to help you use that speed in a better way.
Got it. And also then just longevity, injury prevention, all those sorts of things, right?
That's the next step to it, right? You look at that world long drive range. If you were to come back 5 years later, how many of those folks are still going to be competing? It's going to be the ones that have good flexibility, that keep them out of that ticking time bomb equation, right? That are going to continue to be there year in and year out.
100%. So, all right. So I think we've covered pretty comprehensively what the ticking time bomb is. You're going to fail one of the rotary centers. If you do pass one of the rotary centers, then you're going to be
pass all of the rotary centers.
If you do pass, if you do pass all of the rotary centers,
you don't just get to pass one and move on.
So you got to pass all four. You pass all four rotary centers. Then now you have to then go look at your strength and your power and make sure that those are equivalent or greater than your actual club head speed for your age, right?
Yes. Yeah,
so now let's graduate, because that's our goal with everybody, is that we graduate from a ticking time bomb. We prevent the explosion, or if you already exploded, we put you back together. We fix what caused you to explode
better than they were, right?
Now, how do we graduate to the next? What's the next level? How do we graduate to those next two levels?
So this is where the majority of the balanced golfers that we see are the folks that have been working with us for some time.
Right.
Okay. They're people who have gotten their flexibility better, and they're simultaneously doing some strength and power work. It's never wrong doing some more of that stuff, right? Then they get to the point where their speed outputs are matching what physically they can do, which is a good place to be.
And if you just say, obviously, that it's going to vary in terms of how long it takes for people to get there. Some people get there, a couple months. Some people it takes a year. Like, what would you say average? And does it change based on age, or is it just totally variable for people to get to this point?
So the number one thing that I've seen, will cut down the time to get you from a ticking time bomb to a balanced golfer, is how long have you been training for? And by training, I mean doing strength exercises, doing power exercises, right? A lot of times, if people come in with a good base of that type of work, then it's really about, okay, over the next, let's say 4 to 6 weeks, you really need to work on your soft tissue work. We need to get your body to learn how to move rotationally. Boom, now you're a balanced golfer.
Got it.
Right? For those folks who don't have any exercise backgrounds, it's going to take them a bit longer to get there.
Probably a lot of the people listening right now.
Exactly.
Golfers, we are not known for being gym rats.
If your exercise routine is, walking the dog twice a day for 20 minutes, that is not strength training.
Correct.
Right? It is going to take you a long time to be able to get to that balance level.
I literally just had this conversation with my wife. We were away for our anniversary weekend. We were walking on a trail, and she was talking about how, for years as a woman, like, she just would go to the gym and run. She thought cardio was the key.
Right.
So she had knee issues and hip issues, and she was talking how she's finally started working out. And like the last year, she's been consistent with it. She's like, it's amazing. I can run and I don't have pain. And we saw this girl running down, like, clearly does not strength train. Her knees are like touching each other when she hits the ground, like when she, like, totally valgus for any of you PTs or people who know what that means. Basically, the knees go bow inwards, and like foot is
hear people smacking.
Oh the God! And my wife, who's not a PT, not like she goes, oh my God, that girl is going to hurt so bad in the next 5 years. Like, she already was picking like a ticking time bomb in the running world, but it's so kind of counterintuitive for particularly for women, but also just I think the senior golfer, just the age that people came up in. For kids now, it's kind of like second nature. Like, oh, you play a sport, you probably should do some training, right?
You've got to do some type of training.
But if you're over the age of 40, like, or even, it wasn't even like mainstream shoot when I started 10 years ago for
Yeah.
golfers to think about strength training, right?
Yeah.
And so it definitely is a mind shift of like, hey, I have to get stronger. And I always use the analogy of mobility is what kind of will allow you to get the tissue work allowed to get from point A to point B so that you can actually like move through the motion.
Right.
But your strength training is like putting the armor before you go into battle.
Yeah.
And the stronger you are, the thicker the armor. And so I tell people like, I took my son to the gym. He's 10. He wants to like start. So we're doing some plyos. He's in the car on like first workout.
Yeah.
And he goes, damn, my legs are bulging. Right. And so like first workout, like I would equate that to like, he's going to battle with a t-shirt on.
Right.
Right. Like at least he has a shirt on, but like it's not really going to do anything. Right.
That's not going to do anything.
But that's where I think the repeated working starts to get that to maybe a leather armor and then maybe to metal. And then you get to Teflon. And right. And now you get an anti-air defense system where you can really like fight off a lot of injury and whatnot. So it does take time, 100%. Yeah. So now, all right. So now we know how to go from ticking time bomb, which is basically just don't do anything in your ticking time bomb probably. Now we get mobility. We start getting stronger. You know, if you've already had training and it's really just the mobility that's holding you back, that's pretty quick, 4 or 6 weeks.
Right.
If you're somebody who has done nothing and has no strength training background, it's going to take you a couple more months. Yeah. And you get to this balance point. Now what?
Honestly, this is where again, go back to that more RPMs under the hood golfer. That's a very, very small percentage of people. And what's interesting is there's maybe been 2 or 3 times that I've seen someone go from balanced to more RPMs under the hood. If you're playing golf, if you're doing the right things, you're most likely going to just kind of raise all of your levels simultaneously. Okay. The only times I've really seen these more RPM under the hood golfers is people who are new to golf, but have a really, really long history of, let's say, other speed and power sports or a lot of lifting background. Okay. So say someone's coming from a powerlifting background and they've competed, right? They're super strong, deadlifting 500 pounds for a guy, something like that, right? Then they go, oh, hey, I'm kind of done with this. I'm going to try golf, right? That's going to be someone whose power outputs are just so much bigger than what they even know how to do with a golf club, right? Or I think one of the funniest stories is, our in-house director, Alex Shirazi, right? He was a pitcher in college, and this was the first time he picked up a golf club. And we had him swing a driver, and I had to double check that the launch monitor was correct, right? Because it was over 125 miles an hour. Yeah. Right. And this is a guy who played baseball growing up. He's just fast, and he's got a long lifting history. He's a strong guy too, right? Yeah. And it's like, if you take him through the power test, he could probably swing 130 if he knew what he was doing with his body. Exactly. Right? So what I've seen is really, for those people who are in that ticking time bomb, it just takes consistency and it takes the right plan to get you to a balanced golfer. And once you're there, let's just keep being balanced, and you can keep making progress for who knows how long.
Yeah. And I think that's, to me, that's where longevity comes. So for everybody listening, the goal is to get from ticking time bomb to balanced. Yep. And I think that is where the true safe speed gains can occur. I think, and we talk about this all the time there's all these speed training devices, and the unfortunate thing is, because most people listening are ticking time bombs, we look for that, get rich quick scheme of get fast quick, and so we go do speed training, whatever the system may be, and we get hurt because we don't have that mobility, and we expedite how quickly the basically the explosion occurs from the ticking time bomb. So I think the takeaway from all this, Bobby, that I'm hearing is 3 stages. You got ticking time bomb, balanced golfer, more RPMs under the hood. Yep. Pretty much everyone listening can disregard more RPMs under the hood.
It's probably not you. Sorry.
Most of us are going to be in that ticking time bomb category. We can work out of that relatively quickly with minimal time and effort. You do have to put in some time and effort. It is not like magical pixie dust. But then we get to that balanced state, and that is where longevity can occur for decades. And we can swing faster. We can decrease losses relative to what we would normally lose as we age. And that's truly where we can play this game for many, many, many years.
Yep. You got it.
Awesome. Thanks for being with me today, Bobby. And thanks, everybody. Thank you for listening to the Golf Fitness Bomb Squad. Hopefully we diffused some of you out there that were about to explode. like I said, we'll put the link to the assessment in the in the show notes. It's free. Just go grab it so you can figure out which category you're at. Please do it, and educate yourself on where you can get better. So thanks so much for the time, and we'll be sure to be back for the next exciting episode with Bobby here. He's got a lot more research to share with us over the upcoming episodes. So thanks so much for being here.
Cool. Thanks.